Welcome to this academic explainer on the multifaceted system of English quantity, a really fascinating linguistic deep dive we're calling TEMA 19. Notebook LM. In the English language, quantifying the world around us isn't just about memorizing some vocabulary words, it's actually about mastering a deeply intricate, highly structured grammatical domain. Today, we're going to see exactly how nouns act as our primary lexical vehicle for denoting entities, while determiners and partitives, well, they act as the steering wheel, right? They completely modulate and specify everything we articulate. So let's quickly map out today's agenda. We'll start with noun classes and countability, then move into dual class membership and reclassification. After that, we'll cover understanding partitive constructions, map out the English determiner system, and finally wrap up with pedagogical implications and our conclusion. To make sure we're anchoring this explainer in true academic rigor, we're drawing directly from the foundational frameworks of absolute linguistic heavyweights. We're talking Cork, Huddleston, Biber, Carter, McCarthy, and Swan. Throughout this lecture, we're not just going to skim the surface. No way. We're going to use their comprehensive models to truly decode the systematic logic of English quantity. We'll apply their theories to see exactly how structure dictates meaning. All right, let's jump right into section 1, noun classes and countability. Because before we can quantify anything, we really have to categorize our nouns based on some strict inherent criteria. As established in Quirk's incredibly comprehensive grammar framework, the primary division here rests entirely on countability. Count nouns represent discrete, individual entities that you can easily pluralize, think books or ideas. Conversely, non-count nouns, like furniture or warmth, denote an undifferentiated mass. And what's structurally fascinating here is the cascading effect this has on our articles. While proper nouns take no article, Huddleston actually points out that non-count nouns take a zero article, as in, I like music. This zero article isn't just nothing. It maintains a vital grammatical contrast with a definite article, forming a deeply systematic difference that governs the entire syntax of the noun phrase. Okay, now that we've got those basic classes locked down, let's step into section 2, dual class membership and reclassification. This is where we reveal the incredible fluidity of English nouns. Because as it turns out, countability is rarely a rigid property. A single lexical item frequently possesses dual class membership, and it depends purely on the speaker's communicative intent. Consider a word like brick. In one context, if it's functioning as an undifferentiated non-count material, you might say, a house built of brick. But if you just shift your grammatical environment, it suddenly becomes a discrete countable object. He used bricks to build the house. We are quite literally reshaping the physical reality of the noun simply through a lexicogrammatical shift. The noun itself is completely flexible. It's the grammatical environment that assigns its boundary. Pretty cool, right? We also see this phenomenon through a process linguists call reclassification by conversion. So a non-count substance, like coffee, can semantically shift to denote a specific discrete unit, like when you order 2 coffees, obviously meaning 2 cups, or it can shift to denote a type, such as discussing Brazilian coffees. And corpus studies by Bieber and his colleagues show we do this constantly in everyday speech with items like cheese, paper, and cake. The noun form itself remains perfectly identical, but the grammatical environment entirely transforms its semantic output from an unbounded substance right into a discrete measurable unit. Which brings us to section 3, understanding partitive constructions. Grasping this is absolutely crucial because it answers how exactly we linguistically partition those undifferentiated masses into measurable, manageable units. You see, quantity partition is essential for imposing countability onto non-count concepts. When confronting a massive, uncountable entity, partitive constructions act as our linguistic scalpel. They slice it up for us. Academic grammars broadly categorize these into quality partition, such as identifying a new kind of computer, and quantity partition, which specifies the exact measurable amount. Honestly, without these constructions, we wouldn't have any grammatical mechanism for isolating a single instance of an uncountable idea. And English employs a really fascinating mix of partitives to achieve this structural division. We rely heavily on highly versatile partitives like a piece of, which functions perfectly for concrete nouns like bacon, but actually works equally well for abstract ones like advice. We also use bit for small quantities or item for more formal abstractions like an item of news. But then, English rigidly demands specific, descriptive collocations to map physical reality. For instance, you can't just say a piece of grass. You have to use specific bound terms. A bar of chocolate, a blade of grass, a speck of dust. These are rigid, lexically bound phrases that native speakers just acquire intuitively, yet they form a highly complex matrix for the entire system of quantity. Transitioning away from the nouns themselves, we're now at Section 4, the English determiner system. If nouns are the vehicle of our meaning, determiners are quite literally the steering wheel of English quantification. The distribution of these determiners is governed by a beautifully rigid hierarchical mapping. Position and noun constraints dictate their usage with almost mathematical precision. First up, predeterminers, like all and both, absolutely must precede central determiners, and they are governed by strict mutual exclusivity rules. You literally cannot stack them randomly. Next, we have the central determiners. These are your standard articles, demonstratives, and universal quantifiers. Their presence is strictly governed by whether the noun is count or non-count. Finally, post-determiners follow the central ones, and they encompass closed-class quantifiers like many, few, and numerical identifiers. This trinary system, pre, central, and post, ensures that every single quantified noun phrase is perfectly and mathematically sequenced. And here is where the system demands incredible semantic precision. Notice the subtle contrast between a few and a little, which carry a distinctly positive connotation, essentially meaning some. But if we drop that central determiner A and just say few or little, we drastically alter the semantic connotation from positive to negative, implying not many or not much. Omitting one single letter changes the entire attitudinal polarity of your sentence. It's a brilliant illustration of just how delicate and highly sensitive the English determiner system truly is to minor structural adjustments. For our final topic today, let's head into Section 5, Pedagogical Implications and Conclusion. Let's look at what this complex systemic web means for advanced English learners and educators facing cross-linguistic challenges. If you teach or learn English at a high level, you have definitely encountered L1 interference, resulting in phrases like many informations or several news. So why does this happen? Well, this interlanguage error occurs precisely because there is no universal logical connection between an entity's nature in the real world and its English countability. Words like information, money, and advice are inherently non-count in English, yet they're easily countable in Romance languages and many others. To overcome this, the learner actually has to actively bypass their native intuition and instead utilize those rigid partitive equivalents we established earlier, transforming an advice into a piece of advice to fully satisfy the absolute structural demands of English. As we conclude this academic explainer on the expression of quantity, I hope it's abundantly clear that this is a highly organized, deeply systematic domain. It perfectly integrates noun morphology, fluid semantic shifts, and a strictly hierarchical determiner system mapped out by decades of rigorous linguistic research. You see, you're not just memorizing vocabulary, you are internalizing the rigid grammatical constraints that literally structure the English perception of the world. So, I'll leave you with this question. How does mastering this deeply systemic web of quantity change the very way you articulate your own reality? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the mechanics behind the language.